Judgment Days 5. New facts of police torture have been voiced during the Zhanozhen trial. Thanks for staying alive. Journalist and dissent movement activist from Uralsk Lukman Akhmedyarov speaks up after the murder attempt. Return ban. The immigration quota for Kazakh repatriates was suspended until government's further notice. This is Vlast KZ on K+. We review the accents, trends and personalities of the past week. The dissent rally took place in Almaty and a number of other cities of Kazakhstan on Saturday. This was the fourth protest in a series of similar rallies organized as a response to the Zhanozhen events. According to information agencies, several hundred Almaty residents have demanded the authorities to stop the trial over the participants of mass disorders in Zhanozhen and Shetpe. Dissent movement members also demanded to find their silence and those who ordered the attack on journalists from Uralsk, Lukman Akhmedyarov. No opposition leaders were noticed among the rally participants. However, the appearance of Ruhaniyat party acting leader Serikhan Mambetalin, who came all the way from London, was quite surprising. The next rally in Almaty is scheduled for June 2nd in front of the Abay monument.
Show me a search permit.
I can explain this.
I don't want any explanations. I need to see a permit. If you don't have it, let me go. Why the bags are being searched and since when? Upon whose order are you acting like this?
This is because of the blast in Ukraine. There is an event with children here, so we check everyone.
Then why aren't you checking everyone?
Why are you not checking this woman with the bag?
We do check everyone.
Everyone?
Yes, every single person. If you have any questions, please fill in a special appeal application to the state bodies. Please appeal to the prosecution office. I want to ask Nazarbayev to come talk to us at least once. He can bring his parliamentarians along. We should tell him what we really think. Don't let them think that we're being enemies. We're courageous people. We gather to make our lives better.
Where is the law? Lawlessness, bastards.
I was hit in the eye, but I didn't even say anything. He just punched me.
File a complaint about special forces.
These are the kinds of bastards who open fire at their own people.
Special forces fighters hit a person there in front of everyone. They hit an old man for no reason. Will you react to that somehow or just ignore it?
Nothing of the sort happened, so no, unless you have proof.
I saw it with my own eyes.
If you can prove it, we will take responding measures.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Deputy Prosecutor of Almaty, Jandos Umiraliyev. Hello everyone. Today I appeal to the leaders of all political parties and public associations, asking them to forget their differences, leave aside unnecessary ambitions and unite for the people.
We did not come here to overthrow the government. No, we just want to get their attention so that they can hear us. Here we have pensioners speaking about pension reforms and raise of electricity rates that have concerned them. They are not surviving anymore. They are dying of hunger. Go that way.
They are not for sale.
Go there.
Why?
Selling balloons is not allowed here.
I'm not selling them.
Don't touch me.
He acts as if I had a gun on me.
It seems you scared them.
I have no clue. I'm just a small, fragile girl.
Выпускаем все разом!
I came to this rally to support people who are against the shooting of civilians in Zhanaozen. I'm deeply dissatisfied with that situation, and that's the reason why I'm here.
I'm dissatisfied with the catastrophic condition of our people. Poverty and lawlessness is all around.
Бесправие. Работу любую должность можно получить за деньги.
Today, everything is for sale. Any jobs, positions, and problems with law enforcement or city administration can be resolved with money. Unfortunately, our people bought these cheap opportunities to resolve their problems.
Все очень дешево купились вот на такие дешевые возможности все разводить.
Why did you seize this poster? What did this woman violate?
Freedom to oil workers.
Show your ID.
What are you seizing? Why are you doing this? What did she do?
Leave me alone.
Why are you detaining her?
She's a human being, damn it. Leave her alone.
Вот, смотрите, стоят органы прямо нагло сейчас. Ничего не боятся.
Look, we have cops here who don't fear anything. They're persecuting and threatening me. Since Monday, I receive phone calls with threats that I'm going to be messed up. The same threats are on social networks. And the real reason for such threats is that I'm an opposition activist.
На самом деле, причина, вы знаете, одна, то, что я являюсь активистом.
Don't touch me, you ass. Get your hands off me. I will do it myself.
They are detaining him for no reason.
Why is he being arrested?
They're not telling anything.
What is your name?
Take your hands off me.
На минувшей неделе количество судебных процессов в горячей точке Республики Мангыстау увеличилось до 4.
Last week, the number of trials taking place in Mangistau had reached 4. Aside the case of the 37 oil workers accused of organizing mass disorders in Zhanaozen and Shetpe, Aktau is hosting trials of the case of Bazarbai Kenjabayev, who died as a result of tortures, and finally the trial over police officers abusing power and professional duties employing firearms, which led to death of civilians during the December riots in Zhanaozen last year.
Гибель людей во время жанузенских событий в декабре прошлого года. На скамье подсудимых 5 полицейских уровнем от замначальника
5 police officers, including the deputy head of the regional DIA, were brought to the court. A number of defendants makes the case more of a formality. The investigation failed to even count policemen who fired at civilians properly, but 11 of them were even caught on camera. In one of the previous programs, we showed a video posted on the internet which focused on the number of policemen in the Special Forces unit. This person first opened fire at Zhanaozen citizens from 35-meter distance. This footage shows a policeman with 2 guns at once. Next, we can see the civilians are being shot at by 11 people, 10 with regular and 1 with a machine gun. A logical question arises: why criminal cases were instigated against only 5 police officers? The nature of the trial of a policeman was obvious from the day one. In contrast with oil workers, officers are not judged, but actually actively protected, especially by the public prosecutor.
Круговая порука мажет как копоть.
The hearings on the case of Zhanspek Temirov, the head of the Zhanaozen temporary detention ward charged with power abuse, had started in October. Temirov managed the very detention facility where Bazarbai Kenjibayev was severely beaten and later died. Kenjibayev came to Zhanaozen to visit his daughter in the maternity hospital. On December 16, he left home and returned 3 days later with blooded shirt and severe bruises. The victim told about the tortures he was subjected to Russian Novaya Gazeta reporter Elena Kostyuchenko. They made them go through a live corridor and officers would beat them, targeting testicles. Kenjibayev kept saying he came from the village as his daughter was having a baby, but policemen said he stole a TV set in the store and had to confess to it and tell where it was hidden. By this point, Kenjibayev was heavily bleeding all over. He said he was not a thief and an honest man just visiting his daughter. Bazarbayev's daughter Asem Kenjibayev, along with 3 other persons, acts as victims in the case. This footage made 4 months ago show Asem during the funeral of her father, whose death was caused by tortures. 3 out of 4 victims withdrew their claims against Temirov, stating they were indeed beaten in the detention facility. However, it wasn't Temirov personally who did it. Only Asem Kenjibayeva insisted that Temirbayev should still be held accountable as the head of the ward, inmates of which were subjected to tortures. She further stated that defendant's father had even twice offered money in exchange for withdrawal of her claims against his son. He asked me to write a statement that I don't blame his son. He offered to pay money, any amount. He just wants his son to be released. I told him that I don't need any money from him. As long as I am healthy, I can earn it myself. If Zhanspek is guilty, he must be held responsible. I said I don't need any troubles, I need peace, and asked him to not to come to my house anymore. Defendants in the Zhanaozen trial continue one after another confirming the facts of torture in the detention centers. They said that police had tortured and then forced them to make false testimonies against the trade union activists. Security guard Mel Sarbayev, charged with looting an ATM, told the court the following. I was suppressed and humiliated. I couldn't even pray as I was all naked. Thanks to the oil workers, I survived this all. I am grateful to them for supporting me. I have no idea what I was detained for. I am a religious person and I was stripped naked and beaten up. Officer Daniel Adilov put a plastic bag over my head and held it until I passed out. When I came back to my sense, I realized I peed myself and they made fun of me and forced to wipe the floor like that. They continued beating, saying I will not get out of here if I didn't admit to looting the ATM. I cried and I begged them to stop and asked why are they doing it to me as I was innocent. Then I was offered to admit myself guilty so that they can charge me with the Article 100. When I refused, they started beating me again. I never got beaten like that by anyone, but here I was beaten with such cruelty by state authorities. 17-year-old pupil Nursultan Mukhashev is charged with breaking sound equipment. I was summoned to the prosecutor's office after several days. I was shown a video in which I was standing next to the sound monitor and trying to put it back, but they say I was participating in the mass disorders. My mom was left outside when they took me in and ordered me to put my hands back on my head and started asking questions like if I was in the mass riots, to which I said no and got punched. Then I was asked another question, which followed by another punch, so it went on and on after each of my answers. I asked my mom to be brought in, but they ignored me and more officers joined in beatings. Tell us, why were you holding sound equipment? When they were thrown down, there were 2 women and 1 man standing on the stage. They told me to help them to put equipment back up. I tried to put one up, but it was heavy and it fell off. The video shows this very moment. In your testimonies, you admit your fault. No, I actually don't admit it. It's all lies. I was beaten by an officer named Maksat. None of either my mom or lawyer was present during the interrogation. There was another officer, Colonel Khydraleyev, who had insulted me verbally. The prosecution got more surprises as the process continued with testimonies of anonymous witnesses. Earlier, presiding Judge Nagishubayev decided to examine the anonymous witnesses via Skype out of safety concerns. One of them, testifying under alias Arman, said he saw defendants Maksat Dusmagambetov on the square actively calling for violence. He also told the court he saw Ayjan Dusembayeva between 1 to 3 p.m. However, investigation established that at that time she was in the hospital after sustaining a gunshot wound. The episode told told by defendant Ayjan had shocked all present in the courtroom, making even some men cry. My mom ran up to me and shouted, "You were shot in the leg." I looked and saw that half of my leg was pulled off. Mom and sister-in-law were crying, yelling and asking me to stand up, but I couldn't. There were a lot of blood there. I shouted that I couldn't stand up and asked them to pull me up. They tried and fell down with me. Police was approaching while people were being shot around me. The panic was all around, with so much blood, people being wounded and dying around me. My mom and sister-in-law ran away. I don't judge them, I actually understand. Not far from me, I saw a dead child. I started calling for help. A young guy ran up to me and wanted to help me, but got shot, I suppose from the back. He fell down. I was shouting for him to stand back. Then children were passing by. One of them stopped and tried to pull me up, but he couldn't do it alone. The others joined so somehow they took me out of there. We ran, but we couldn't do it fast because of my foot, half of which was teared off. Then one of these guys did just take and put it on their shoulders, as terrifying it may sound.
Наполовину оторванную ногу положил на плечи.
Defendant Janat Marumbayev had recognized another anonymous witness by his voice. He claimed that witness with alias Kairat Alpusbayev is actually oil worker Alexander Bazhenka. The witness could not longer take the rap by defendants and confessed. He said the police had forced him to testify anonymously against defendants and that now he is ready to show up in court to tell the truth. Indeed, Kairat Alpusbayev had admitted everything. Perhaps his conscience had awakened. He publicly confessed before the judge, participants and audience of the trial. On December 18, I was detained by police near my house when special force officers put me in a van, beat me up and then took me inside the garage. There I was kept from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. with my feet in water. They have broken my wrist. They were altogether about 150 detainees. Half of them were wearing shoes, but about 50 of us were barefoot. They would take us into the DIA one by one and beat in the kidneys area. Witness Irelanjay Ilganov, who testified under the alias Almas Orozbayev, showed up in the court next day, saying he withdraws all of his testimonies made previously. Ilganov said he was kidnapped by police on December 21. Police officers had beaten him up and, by showing pictures of Sarıbayev, Kalishbayev, Yermukhanov, forced to testify against them. Some of the stories being told during the hearing were indeed emotionally disturbing. Therefore, presiding judge Nageshabayev had made a resolution restricting journalists to make audio records during the trial, dated April 27. Followed by earlier ban of making video records, journalists can now only use their notepads. Interestingly, the press center is half empty, as many pro-government media have pulled their reporters back as soon as defendants started making controversial statements. Kazakhstan's independent bloggers also do not rush to inform the public about the situation. Nowadays, the government is not doing press tours just like the one organized on the 9th day after the Zhanaozen mass disorders. Back then, some of the bloggers expressed skepticism about the tortures and assaults of detainees, calling them just rumors. By doing that, they aided the authorities in their criminal actions. Now they keep total silence. Despite the defendants also reporting about the tortures, no one seems to admit the fact. All what is being told in the trial must be seen and heard by the people. Otherwise, everything discussed in this building could be locked inside. It's obvious that people are being pressured here. They do what they are told to do by the prosecutors. The court just supports it and ignores what people are saying. The witness testimonies confirm most horrifying truth about the system, which some seem to prefer not to hear, see and admit. Policemen use president's name to cover up the use of firearms and torture against residents in Shetpen, Zhanaozen. It was reported by one of the defendants on the trial, Kuanish Touleyev. According to him, one of the investigative officers from Beino said that no one will punish policemen who opened fire at civilians. Even if you will die, we won't be punished. It's Nazarbayev's order, said criminal investigator to detainees. Touleyev remembered these words while testifying during the Shetpen trial. Another revelation of the week was the confession of witness Alexander Borzhenko during the Zhanaozen hearing. From the beginning, he was testifying against oil workers via Skype with changed voice under the alias of Kairat Alpusbayev, but one of the defendants recognized Borzhenko and called him to tell the truth. The man of faith and foster home graduate, Borzhenko cried and said he was beaten for 2 months in attempt to extract the necessary testimony. The Skype conference was disconnected. When Alexander said, if necessary, I can come to the court and openly tell the truth. I will do anything to prevent you from going into jail. I cannot lie anymore. If I do, I will kill myself. End quote. Lawyers then sought to summon Borzhenko and provide security to his welfare due to new testimony. Finally, on April 26, Alexander openly appeared as a witness. It was a case of repentance, confession and preaching.
Милиционер, я его знаю на лицо, имя не знаю. Он сказал, это президент. Президент мне так сказал.
I don't know the name of the policeman. He said that President ordered him to do so. I said, okay, if that was President's order, then I agree to be beaten and tortured. But then they started to bargain and said that if I write a complaint against some of the oil workers, they will just keep me for 10 days and release me. I'm afraid of God, so I will tell the truth. I hope that this case will resolve positively and hope that accused oil workers will be released. And I will keep my stance. I will tell the truth no matter what, even if they will torture or kill me.
Coming up next in the program. Thanks for staying alive. Journalist and dissent movement activist from Uralsk Lukman Akhmedyarov speaks up after the murder attempt. Return ban. The immigration quota for Kazakh repatriates was suspended until government's further notice. We will return after the break.
Vlast KZ.
Главные события в Казахстане. Достоверные факты. Эксклюзивные комментарии. Читайте в Казахстане информационно-аналитический портал «Республика». Чтобы обойти блокировки, воспользуйтесь доменом respublicas.info. Вы окажетесь на так называемом прокси-портале. Специально разработанные канадскими специалистами по интернет-технологиям, прокси-порталы помогают пользователям получать информацию в тех странах, где блокируют интернет-ресурсы. В Китае, Иране, в Казахстане. Вы принимаете условия использования системы и попадаете на страницу информационно-аналитического портала «Республика». Материалы интернет-портала также доступны пользователям всемирной сети Facebook. facebook.com/respublica.kaz. Если вы хотите поделиться информацией, вам есть что рассказать, звоните в редакцию «Республики». Наши телефоны в Казахстане +7 727 273 92 95, в Москве +7 495 621 87 03.
Новости Казахстана на казахском языке смотрите в 21:00 и далее каждый нечетный час. Новости Казахстана на русском языке в 22:00 и далее каждый четный час. Новости Казахстана на английском языке смотрите в 16:30, 17:30, 18:30 и 19:30 со вторника по субботу. Время Астаны. Изготовление и размещение рекламы на канале KplusTV.
Doctors in Uralsk had really fought for the life of journalist Lukman Akhmedyarov during a 3-hour-long surgery. The reporter miraculously survived after a brutal assault, sustaining numerous traumatic gun and stab wounds. Only thanks to the doctor's thorough job and his strong spirit, Lukman Akhmedyarov's life is saved. A few days ago, he gave his first post-assault interview.
Losers, that is how Lukman Akhmedyarov calls his assailants. The reporter says with irony that rich kids employed exclusively due to the family ties cannot even kill a man properly. The journalist is on a speedy recovery, although he still feels pain of all the inflicted wounds. Nevertheless, Akhmedyarov agreed to a Stan interview. Everyone is asking pretty much the same thing, how I feel. I feel as good as a man with a few extra holes in his body can feel. It's okay. It's a miracle that after such wounds close to his heart, Akhmedyarov is still alive, says his mother. A rite was organized to mark the reporter's survival, attended by the journalist's friends and family, as well as the local imam. On April 18th, several people assaulted the well-known Uralsk journalist and public activist. He was shot from a traumatic gun and then stabbed 8 times. It is a miracle Lukman Akhmedyarov survived the attack. At the same time, the police almost managed to file the case as a banal hooliganism. Later, the Interior Ministry fixed their mistake and the case was changed to the murder attempt. On April 25th, law enforcement revealed some details. Officially, there were 3 assailants, all with Asian features. The police have even come up with a composite image of one of the attackers, but the only distinguished characteristics spoken of the briefing surprised journalists, as the description suits thousands. During the assault, one of the attackers wore a black tracksuit with white stripes. A dark face is the distinguished characteristic of the second assailant. We have created his composite image. In the meantime, the investigation is overseen personally by Kalmuhamed Kasimov. Last week, he had to literally fight his way to the office through journalists. The minister didn't say much. All motives for the incident are being considered at the moment, including personal and professional. In a word, I believe this savagery. Of course, we wish his speedy recovery so that he could continue with his professional duties. Lukman Akhmedyarov is well known in his native Uralsk. The reporter's friend Sanat Urnaliyev says everyone knows Akhmedyarov there and adds it was indeed his professional activity that caused the assault. Apparently, Akhmedyarov had a lot of enemies among the officials. For instance, Tlekabul Imashev, the head of Internal Policies Department, had filed a suit against Akhmedyarov not long ago. The plaintiff didn't appreciate the reporter's article Brother, Friend and Favor, where Akhmedyarov exposed the clan and family relations among the authorities. Another version of the motive is linked to the dissenters' rallies. The authorities wanted to remove him, first of all because in the last few months Akhmedyarov was responsible for organizing the monthly dissenters' rallies. This was done by people who work for the state, those supporting Nazarbayev's policies. Media advocates also link the assault with his work. Active people who cause too much trouble are bound to become targets. Lawyer Gulnar Birjanova says that in the country where 25 journalists died in the last 25 years, not once their death was found to be linked with professional activity. In the last couple of years, there were many cases that show that independent journalism is a risky job. Unfortunately, it seems that journalists are persecuted by those who think differently. This is a political case because there have been allegations against Akhmedyarov for a long time. The authorities expressed their dissatisfaction with his articles, and that's why I see this episode as an attempt to shut him up. Janat Akhmedyarov sees a Zhenauzen connection in the case. He says his brother was planning a trip to Aktau to personally witness the progress of the trial. I am confident this was done by the authorities, one of its subdivisions working with the Zhenauzen situation. It might be behind this entire tragedy and is now trying its best to conceal the truth. Aygul Solovyova says no one should hide behind political repressions. The MP believes everyone must wait until the end of the investigation and adds that independent reporters often act against the established rules and later end up in difficult situations. I believe it is not the time to hide behind political persecutions. We should just live in accordance with the law, and if there is a violation, then we can appeal to the judicial authorities, some mediators, arbitration courts and general public. All tools at hand should be used, not only complaints about repressions. Akhmedyarov himself has no second guesses about the assault motives. He's outraged about hooliganism and domestic crime versions and says the episode is clearly a political order. I see only one reason: the present political reality of Kazakhstan's authorities, who understand that they are no longer able to prevent existing problems in their current form. Further manipulation of our opinion through state-owned media will not lead to anything positive.
Я помню себя там
I remember how 15 years ago I loved everything Nazarbayev said and did. I was thinking this was the man who will take us to the bright future. I was actively debating everywhere, supporting his point that economics should be improved before politics. Only later my eyes gradually opened to see the real situation. It is silly to be afraid, quotes the reporter the German film Knocking on Heaven's Door, and then adds that in case with Kazakhstan it is also already too late. The independent journalist from Uralsk says that if nothing is done now, future generations will be left with nothing but present fears.
The immigration quota for repatriates returning to Kazakhstan was suspended last week until further decrees of the government. According to the Migration Policies Committee, the government had withdrawn its decree dated December 22, 2011, which established an annual quota for repatriates as 10,000 families per year. Since independence, the Nurkush program brought home about 1 million ethnic Kazakhs from other countries, including China, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan.
Emergency meeting of repatriates called Aralman in Kazakh takes place in Akaral village of Almaty. Temporary suspension of immigration quotas is a big problem for them, since majority of them are unemployed. Almost all of them were hoping to get an official status of a repatriate and end up within the quota, which entitles them to financial assistance from the government. The money we had when we moved from China are already spent. The cattle we've brought is also gone. We're unemployed. If we made it to the quota list, we would be receiving welfare benefits. This would have been quite helpful. Others ended up within the quota. Why can't we? Among the repatriates, the 1-year-old Aygul is the only one to born in Kazakhstan. Other children were taken to China. Young repatriate families are indeed migrating back. They don't see a future at their historical homeland. Ulbalsin's family lives split in 2 different countries. This is due to the changes of amendments to the migration law of Kazakhstan, which became effective on August 2011. In accordance with the new regulations, repatriates may become citizens of Kazakhstan only upon renunciation of Chinese citizenship. In turn, China allows Kazakhs to renounce their citizenship only after they receive the new one in Kazakhstan. My daughter went back to China because she couldn't find employment here. She said she'd rather work there and support us financially than be unemployed here. Now my daughter is helping us. It is quite difficult to survive without citizenship in Kazakhstan. We are currently unemployed. Rakimay Puli believes that the phenomenon of separate residence for families in 21st century is illogical. The activist who has been involved with the problems of repatriates for years is now saying that Kazakhstan is demeaning itself in front of other countries and international organizations by not executing its own legislation. There are Vienna, Geneva and Helsinki conventions. The document is about families residing in separate countries. For example, if my relatives live in a different country, I have the right to move them here or move closer to them myself. No law can prevent this. Kazakhstan signed this convention when our country was the chairman of the OSCE. We promised to protect human rights and now we ignore all of that. Awit Mukibek has been deeply involved with the problems of migrants for the last 3 years. His worst fears did come true. The man says he expected Kazakhstan to suspend quotas and slow down the migration. This is due to the president's administration's changed attitude towards Oralmans. At the last World Congress of Kazakhs, the president said we don't have to bring all the Kazakhs back to Kazakhstan since we don't have the capacity. Young people should immigrate on their own. That is how ungenerous he became. Although he used to say that for Kazakhs living abroad there is only one homeland, Kazakhstan. And once he even said that he visited many countries and Kazakhs abroad never let him down once, that he was proud of them. Yet in 10 or 15 years, the very same Kazakhs are now considered terrorists and looters. Awit Mukibek recalls the protest of oil industry workers in western Kazakhstan and the former chairman of Samuru Kazana Fund accusing non-Kazakh residents of organizing the strike.
Которые они вместе приехали с Каргопаки, а остальные просто наши политики на фоне просто появляются для того, чтобы показать, что они с народом.
Authorities have suspended the quota on immigration for repatriates until further notice. This week, the Interior Minister Kasimov announced that his agency is preparing a new resettlement program to replace the old one. The government decree of December 22, 2011 established the quotas for 10,000 families between 2011 to 2014 has been suspended. The World Association of Kazakhs, headed by the president, assumes that the quota was suspended as part of anti-unemployment efforts. In fact, people migrated even without quotas, therefore it is not right to say that quotas had been suspended and that will stop migration. Those people who love their homeland will move here anyway. Olympic medalist and famous boxer Kanat Islam moved from China to his historic homeland in 2010 with no quotas or cash benefits. His main goal was to join the national team of Kazakhstan for the Olympics in London. However, due to bureaucratic delays, the boxer have not managed to become a member of the team. Astana authorities couldn't get all required permissions from China. While having a perfect career there, the talented athlete is irrelevant in Kazakhstan. The quota is of enormous help to every family. I know from my experience that it is extremely difficult to move to Kazakhstan from China. The suspension of quotas caused a strong reaction among people. My friends and relatives in China call me to find out why is this happening. I believe there is no need to stop the flow of Kazakhs. Instead, the number should be multiplied. Only a few will be able to move to Kazakhstan on their own. The majority really needs government's help. Tursun Koshakulu, who moved to China last year, is planning to plant potatoes. There are 13 children in his large family. The old man is hoping that potatoes will last them for a little while. In China, Tursun worked as a veterinarian, but when he moved to Kazakhstan, he became unemployed, just as many settlers in this village. Tursun has a lot of hopes for this summer, yet he already made up his mind to take the family back to China unless they receive citizenship and due government aid. We immigrated here at the invitation of Nazarbayev, thinking Kazakhstan is our great motherland. But everyone ignores us here. Nobody can explain anything really. All they do is keep holding off the money. My children have to graze someone else's cattle. I wanted to arrange a trip to China, but they do not give me a visa. I'm tired of all this. Now I'm thinking about leaving and going back.
Вы смотрели программу «Влast KZ».
This was Vlast KZ on K+ with the review of accents, trends and personalities of the past week. Goodbye.
До новых встреч.